Good morning, everyone. Futures Brizio here. It's 11:15 a.m. on Thursday, September 26, 2024. Hope everybody's doing great. And I know I've been away for a while. As I mentioned last time, I just moved, so just really been trying to get settled into the new location. So I've just been absent from YouTube for here for quite a while, so I apologize. But let's just get into it here. And what I want to talk about today is I think this is something I've talked about in the past, but I wanted to revisit it because it's really something that you can hopefully use, especially if you're trading futures. So for those of you that trade futures, you know that futures trade in contract months. So, for instance, we're looking at the copper, the December 2024 copper contract. Now, of course, since these are contract months, they have a finite amount of time that they're in existence. So the prices and the price action kind of rolls into the subsequent month. So as one expires, all the volume will move into the next one, and as one contract month nears expiration, traders will begin to leave that contract month and go out to the next available one. Now, I'm not going to get into what contract months which assets have. It depends on the asset. Some only have a few contract months a year. Some have one like every month. But they all have expiration dates, and you can find that out actually on the exchange websites like the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, or NYMEX or Chicago Board of Trade, or wherever your particular asset is traded. If you're a futures trader, you can go on there and see the contract months and when they expire for any market that you trade. So I'm not going to get into all that, but just understand again that there are, again, if you trade futures, you know this. There are particular contract months, and they all have a finite amount of time, and eventually they do expire. So, but the issue with that is, so this is the December contract. Now, this is the hourly chart, which gives you a lot of price data. But if I jump out to a high time frame like the daily, okay, you can see that the price action is pretty limited here. Okay, you do have a couple of swing areas here, but you can see all of this where there's very little trading. This is when this particular contract month came into existence. See, there was very little price data here, which is why you just see these little marks on the chart. Nobody was really trading this contract very much. This goes back to April. And it finally started to fill in with some decent volatility, basically over the summer. Okay. But you can see it's kind of limited. The chart is, scrolled way over to the left here because this is all the available data there is. So you can do this, but again, it's kind of limited data. What I like to do is, which is the point of this video, is to use the cash chart, which I use TradingView for, to use the cash chart to get a wider view of price. So if I switch over to copper on the cash chart, now let's go over to copper. So here's copper on the cash chart, and let's go out to the daily, and we'll shrink this down so we can see it. So now on the futures chart, all we basically saw was basically from this area and down, which of course is the most recent price data and is technically the most important. But you can see on this is that this, since this is the cash chart, it basically acts like a forex chart or a stock chart, right? So as long as this asset's been traded and within the parameters of how much data TradingView will load, you can go back a lot further in time and see the price action, and it helps you see key areas on the chart better and a little bit more clear. If we go to the weekly chart, you can see now all this is basically the limit to the left here about when TradingView started capturing all this. But here's the weekly chart, and you're not going to get any of this on the futures chart. So it just helps you look and see, okay, there's a major area over here up at this high, which was hit before, and this area back here in 2022 is not going to show up on the futures chart. So again, basically what I'm saying is, guys, it helps you get a broader picture on the higher time frames of areas of interest that you're not going to see necessarily on the futures chart, especially if the futures chart you're trading, the futures month you're trading, is still a ways out. so that there's not a lot of price history for you to look at, especially on, say, a daily chart and certainly a weekly chart. And so what I like to do is I like to go to these cash charts, which is what I have here on TradingView. That you can see, that's all I have for the 4 markets I'm trading currently. And this just gives me a nice snapshot. I prefer the daily chart. I will look at the weekly chart, and we're going to look at the weekly chart on one of these markets in a minute to see why. But clearly for copper, we're now in an uptrend. Now we are approaching this area right here. We're pretty much up against it right now. Okay, so if we put a line here, you can see we've had multiple touches of this area in the past, right here, right here, right here. So we're approaching that area again. So, but as you recall, when I showed you the weekly chart, there's also another area up here, okay? So, which we had hit in the past, okay? So basically, what I'd like to see is have this come up here, and it's going to have some kind of reaction off this area for sure, because it has in the past, and everybody else sees these areas too. So you are going to have either profit taking for people in long positions or people trying to short the market from this area. But again, at the end of the day, it's going to depend what the big players, the producers and the users and the large the large entities that move the market, what they decide to do. And what I'd love to see is to see a break, a nice daily close above these highs, and then I'd go to the shorter time frame, look for a retest, and then look up to the upside. Now we do have this little area right here, so potentially we could have a little bit of resistance come in right here if it gets through this current level. There is a level here, but even if this is the daily chart, there's plenty of trading opportunities between here and here, so that's still fine with me. I still would trade that long. And then again, once we get up into here, then these will kind of be like all-time highs up in here. So again, it's not that you can't use the futures chart, but when the longer you go out on the time frames, the more chance that you're going to miss some detail. And I just love using the cash chart, as kind of a guide. Now the prices aren't going to line up exactly, but they're pretty close, and you still want to take your cues off the futures chart, but this gives you a nice broader view of what's really going on longer term, so that you can drill down to the shorter time frames and trade hopefully in the direction of the trend, but still be aware of key areas that have existed on the longer time frames that you might not see on the futures chart, that you'll see on the cash chart. All right, so let's go on and check a couple of these other ones. So here's oil. So if we zoom out on oil, okay, you can see here on the weekly chart, we have this area in here on oil. And again, this is something you might not see, but you can see we've got this area right here in oil, where multiple times in the past year we've reacted off this area from probably about it depends where you really want to draw this. And you can even extend this out even further back here. Let's say if we capture most of this, I don't want to make this too big. Let's say from about this here, so let's call it from around the $65 range to about the $65 to $70 range. That's this gray box. You can see prices reacted to off multiple times, and you can see within the last few weeks here, this is the weekly candle obviously going on right now, but in the last few weeks we came down into this area, we reacted off it and coming down again. If we look at the daily chart here and we zoom into the daily chart a little bit, we do see that we have this daily trend line right here that price reacted off of. Okay, so again, if you just look at a daily chart, you get a little bit different picture, okay, than the weekly chart, but still we've moved into this area here and we reacted off of it. Okay, now the question is this area down here that it moved into before going to hold, and now we're going to move higher? Because it reacted off of this daily trend line. Again, this gray box is on the weekly chart we drew. But again, this is the cash market for oil. We came deep down into this zone. We bounced, went back up to the daily trend line, bounced down again, tried to make a new low, and you can see it's pulling back off those lows now. So the question is now, do we put in a higher low here, come back up, take out this trend line, and then move higher? Or is we just going to chop around and keep going lower, maybe push further down into this zone, okay? But clearly there's some kind of reaction going on to this weekly zone that we've drawn down here, that the buyers really don't want price to go too much lower. And I think fundamentals are such that they won't. So this will be interesting to see what happens here, whether we get a push higher now, and especially on this daily chart, if we manage to come back up, take out this area above this trend line, then certainly my bias would shift more to the long side. So here we are on the 4-hour chart. You can see again we came down to this low today, and now we're bouncing off that. Here's the hourly chart. Still nothing really too impressive on here on the hourly chart. Okay, again, we put in these lows a few hours ago, and price seems to be reacting off here. Now, for your price structure traders, you certainly could look at, either this area right here as a change of character. So if price gets above here, that perhaps it's going to go higher. Certainly, if this area up here is taken out, that is maybe an early indication that this is going to go higher if it starts taking out all of this internal structure. Okay, this was actually the last swing high that led to this low down here. It's not a really impressive one, but it is technically a swing. So again, if you're just trading on market structure, you could look at this area. If price manages to come and take this area out, and then again, there's another area up here. Okay, and you can go all the way back, towards this trend line. Here's that daily overhead trend line. If you wanted to, just play it as more of a position trade, longer term, then you could just wait for price to come all the way back up here, break through these highs where it tapped this trend line last. So come up here, take out these highs, and then have some sort of like a retest to the trend line and then higher. So it just depends what your time frame is and how aggressive you want to be. But again, this is a really good view here on the on this daily and weekly chart. And again, we can see these trend lines, and we do have this. Let me get rid. I got two boxes on here for some. Let's get rid of that one. Okay, and then there is a weekly overhead trend line too. So this is that daily one we drew. If you go back to the weekly, I have this weekly overhead time trend line too. And obviously there's a lot of headroom between here and here. So even if price breaks above the daily and heads higher, yes, there is a weekly trend line overhead, but that's a long way off, and there'll certainly be plenty of trading opportunities to the upside, even if it only makes it back to this weekly trend line. Okay, so again, guys, it's just about going out to these higher time frames and just taking a look and using the cash chart to help you get a cleaner picture of where the trend actually is going on the longer time frame, so that you can drill down to your shorter time frames and find opportunities. Okay, so we looked at copper and we looked at oil. If we look at natural gas, so here's natural gas, and you can see here on the daily chart, let's just jump to the weekly here, and you can see we have kind of this resistance area up here. If we go back to the daily, we're heading towards that area. We haven't gotten there yet. So you can see I have these arrows drawn. So I am looking for more push to the upside, at least up into this area. If we go down to the shorter time frame, here's the 4-hour. Let's go down to the 1 hour and straighten out this chart. So here's the 1 hour, and you can see we have this kind of, I guess you want to call it like a retail support zone that goes. So we have this area here, these two candles here, kind of right here, and then right here. So multiple touches on this. I'll just drop a horizontal line here just so you can see it. So we have kind of multiple touches on this area, and you can see we're breaking. So now, so if this closes below here, this to me is like a liquidity sweep, because we have a support area that's being broken. So we may have had like a lot of retail buyers trying to step in at these levels and buy the market. And then what they're going to try to do is the big traders might try to push through here, break through here, take out all the stops, sweep all that liquidity, because anybody trying to go long off this level, if it breaks through, is going to have their stop losses probably sitting just below here. Those will be taken out, and then maybe we'll go higher. These arrows I drew in a couple of days ago, and I am still looking to see some kind of push into one of these zones, and then before this thing goes higher, and I do think it will go higher. And again, here's that overhead zone that I showed you on the daily chart. Okay, so for natural gas, again, this is the cash chart. Again, I think this is a good target area down here because it's just below, it's an unmitigated area, and it's just below this retail liquidity over here. So let's see what happens. If it gets through here, we do have two other layers further down here. We've got this one here and this one here. So if it's going to be a deeper retracement, we could potentially go all the way down here before it turns higher. But I don't think it'll go that low, but we'll see. I'll look for, kind of a shift in the momentum back higher. But right now, to me, I'm not trading this right now until I see, what this does. But again, the cash chart allows me to, a nice view here, and you can see again back on the daily chart this overhead zone up here on the cash chart. This is the daily, and again, this is the kind of the most recent overhead zone I'd be targeting. If we just take a little peek back out to the weekly chart, if it gets through here, again, we do have this zone a little further up that we could target. And then, of course, there's, lots more targets further away, but we're nowhere near that stuff right now. So let's just worry about what's going on in this area right now, and basically from where price is now to this first overhead resistance area, which I do think it will get through if it gets up here. I do think it'll get through, but it has reacted off here before. But the difference is this time when it reacted off of it, this last time back in June, it came down and to put in a higher low. Okay, so we had this low here, it came back into this zone, reacted out of here again, came down but put in a higher low and started going higher again. So that's why I don't think this area will hold. I think it will break through here, and the next target would be up here. But I have this drawn in anyways because there certainly will be a reaction if it gets up into here, where I think sellers will try to step back in, but I don't think that will hold. I think it will at least run back up to here. And again, for the third time, the reason why is because it came into here and could not put in a lower low after this reaction out of here, put in a higher low. So to me, it just says that the buyers are a little bit more in control of this market longer term right now. So, all right, so that's natural gas. And then S&P just continues to chug. This is the weekly chart. If we go to the daily chart, we did have a clean, nice reaction. Price is now put in a higher high now, so this area here becomes our next area to look for, eventually some sort of retracement down into this area. Something back down into this area, and then have price then move higher if you're position trading this. If you're trading it on the shorter time frame, still the same thing. I mean, we're in an uptrend. So, but for you that like to trade on the longer time frames, then this is certainly, how I would be looking at this. If we go to the 1 hour chart, again, you can continue just to look for pullbacks on the 1 hour chart. Here was one here earlier, and then, there's nothing going on right now. I don't trade S&P very much anymore. I mean, I do have it. If I see a really nice clean setup, I might take it. But, like this was a beautiful one. Unfortunately, I didn't take it because I just don't look at it much. I'm really kind of looking at a lot of these energy, like the natural gas, U.S. oil, and copper being the three that I really focus on the most. But I will take an S&P trade if it really jumps out at me, although, again, I did not take this one. But, again, it's the same thing. Gives you a longer-term view here on the higher time frames to kind of say, okay, we're clearly in an uptrend here. And, we're going to have these pullbacks, but we're in an uptrend. And so let's either, if you're again a position trader where you're going to just wait and hold trades for a long time, you can wait for another deep pullback here. As long as it doesn't take out this area, it holds the uptrend. Probably a multi-day pullback here and then a resumption of the uptrend. Or you can just go to a shorter time frame and like the hourly chart or whatever, and continue to look for long entries on pullbacks that look like this, but just happening on the hourly chart. Okay, remember the market's fractal. So you want to see these nice pullbacks on whatever time frame you're looking on, and just try to stay in line with the longer time frame. All right, so then quickly just jumping back to the futures charts. On oil, you can see I did take a short. Now remember what I was talking about on oil. Jump back here for 1 second. We had this daily trend line reaction right here, okay? And so I did take a trade, figure maybe it was going to react further off of this trend line and head back down. I have since gotten out of it. Now this might still continue down, I don't know, but I did get out of it. You can see price, I got out of it here. Price did go down, try to put in it did actually put in a new low, but it closed higher. Twice here it closed low. Put in new lows technically on these wicks, but you can see both times it closed back inside the range. So now we're basically inside of this range. So, we'll see what happens with this, whether we're going to now continue to the downtrend or whether it's going to break higher or not. I'm not sure. So, but I'm out of this for now. But you can see I did take this trade here, this short from this level, which, was a pretty good trade. And then on copper, I had this long position that I took right here. Okay, I did try to take a couple more trades. This one I should have held. I got out of it, and then I had this one right here where I was trying to preempt this uptrend. You see, I closed it almost immediately. So these really essentially were a wash. This was basically break even. But this one was a nice trade. Now you can see I missed this last leg because most of this happened overnight last night when I was sleeping. This breakout happened at, let's see, 5 o'clock on my broker chart is 9, 13, let's see, 8. So this happened at like 1 o'clock this morning. So I was asleep, so I missed this. So yeah, this breakout happened during the overnight, and I missed it. I mean, potentially I could have gotten in right here, which happened at 9 o'clock this morning on this red candle, and then it pushed up, but I didn't take it. I like to see bigger pullbacks, so this one I just didn't get, and you're not going to get them all, and that's fine. And remember what we see on copper over here is that we've got overhead resistance here on the daily chart we're running into now, although I have a feeling this will break through. And so I am still bullish on this as long as this area holds, basically as long as this area right here on the daily chart holds. We can get rid of this. This is old. As long as this area holds here on the daily chart, then I'm still bullish this. So even if price retraces back down a little bit, which it probably will once it hits this overhead trend line, we'll see some sort of reaction, probably back down on this before it potentially breaks through that area and goes higher. So we'll see what happens on this one, but I'll be looking for a deeper pullback before I resume trading long on this one. So that's it, guys. Essentially it's just using the cash chart just to get a nice clean, broader, more deep picture of the longer term trends. And then after you do that, you don't really need to spend a lot of time here. Just look at the daily, weekly chart on the cash and get a good idea where the trend is. Look for some decent levels, and then go back to your futures chart and wait for those entries to set up. And they're going to be pretty closely aligned, maybe not totally, but pretty close. And that's why it works well. So, all right. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. And by the way, guys, this is TradingView, and I just have a free account on TradingView. I don't have a paid version anymore. I just don't use it enough, and this is perfectly fine for me. Having the free version to look up these symbols, and you only just need the basic drawing tools that are included. You don't need any other indicators other than the rectangle and the lines and the arrows, even if you even want to use that. So the free version's fine. So you can get a TradingView account, the free version, and for what I'm doing here, that's really all you need. So guys, any questions, comment, leave them down below. As always, smash that like button on your way out and drop any comments, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll keep an eye on these as we go. I'll try to be a little bit more regular on here, and look for these opportunities as these markets continue to evolve here and correct, and look for new opportunities to get in. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you all soon.